Hey guys, this is third part of tutorial. In the second part, at the end of the second part, I was talking about dependency injection in IOC container, how that idea can be used in JavaScript. I think I don't know any other framework that provide dependency injection. Maybe there are there because in every day there somebody is coming up with a new JavaScript library. But the AngularJs is the most popular one that provides this dependency injection. So idea about this one is like when this method, this parameter is automatically saturated, we don't have to worry about creating the instances of this object right here. So I'll show you later this object. Now I can call any method inside that object right away. Don't have to worry about how to create instance of those objects. It's all taken care of by the container. In this case, of course, the IOC container would be AngularJs. And by the other thing I want to do, I think it's a really good practice. So these are all so basically what I did inside the scope, I associated object literal JavaScript object literal called job details, and into the job detail I specified all my models. Here, for example, this is a job title, job description, country, location, whatever, all the field that I need to be persisted or that I need to grab the information from. So this is really, instead of a lot of people in the beginning when you are learning something like this, you just people do scope dot, maybe even do job details or something like that. Instead of doing that, you can create a model. Like, every form that you're submitting has a meaning like such a name, right? So rather define the model this way, it's a good practice. It's considered a good practice. So now if I look into my form here, as you can see, let me show you one example here. See right here, I have a ng model. The directive is set with that object that is behind the controller job details, and then I said okay, job title as a model. This way all the input value in the B will be automatically available to my model, and it has so many other benefits. Let's say you have to reset it later, or maybe you have to change it, or maybe you want to pass around those data and give that job details object to a validator. Then that information is also available to validator now. Okay. Okay. Anyway, that's just a practice. I think it's a good practice in any programming language. It's always a good idea to follow the good practice. Once, of course, that is defined. Okay. Next, I want to show you how to bind data. For example, binding data, here is in the scope, I have defined the countries here. This is the countries, which is JavaScript literal. And stuff like this, what I found really interesting, like let's say you need some countries information. Some people have, maybe if you go to GitHub, or maybe and if you search in a website, they have already data like this. You don't have to write it. Somebody have like an XML format, and usually what I do, whatever format I need, maybe if I find this one in XML, I convert it into JSON format that I need. For example, let me show you my Solution Explorer here. So for example, this data I found, somebody wrote it. Yeah, in GitHub somebody wrote like a country's information as a XML data, and then I wrote a little C# plus as a yeah, just there somebody had a data in XML, so basically I need this data, similar kind of country name, all this information, ISO code in a XML format, in a JSON format, in JavaScript format. So I converted this code, wrote a little bit of code in C# and converted that into that, and just plug that into there. Okay, anyway, that's a side note. So that just the kind of like ideas for you guys here. You don't really have to type all those things by hand. You know, if you, let's say you need some all the country, a lot of data is already out there. That's what I'm trying to say. Close up this. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and close that project. Nothing to do right now. Okay, that's my HTML. Okay, that's what I was explaining. So you know, binding is pretty easy. I'll show you just a couple of examples here. Let's start with country, which is, you know, so here is a country which is associated with my scope. Let's see how to do binding to the countries. Okay, here it is. Here is like I said, you know, I'm using the Bootstrap Gridview. So basically, here is a row. In this given row, I'm using this class column empty1. So basically, this, if you are not familiar with the Bootstrap, so basically the whole reason this rectangular section of the browser is divided into 8.333 something multiplied by 12. So basically each this MD1 would be like 8.33%. So that much pixel would be you know, used by this particular class. In the same way here I'm saying, you know, I just need 3. So basically if this one is 1 is 8.3, so 8 times 3 almost 16, 32. So 3 times this one I need the value for the drop down list. That's what I'm saying. And then of course you're going to specify the model, ng model, and you're going to use of course that main object job details, and you're going to give the associated model called country. And first let me know, I will explain to you ng blur. This ng blur is actually doesn't, AngularJs doesn't have this directive called ng blur as of now. Or I don't know, maybe they have already created. But you can basically create something called directive. The directive basically a reusable component. I will show you that code later. And then on ng blur, so basically with this, I want you to fire this JavaScript function, the AngularJS function. Okay, this is the binding syntax. You can use this ng option and you can bind. Remember, like these countries right here refers to these countries, which is basically array object, array of object, right? This object literal has an ID, property, name, all those things. So basically this is how you do binding to a drop down list. I have a country name as a country name. For a country, associate this as a country so that any property, if you have to access, in this case I'm interested in the name property, that's what I want to bind, that's what I want to display here. That's what I did. So I would like to grab the name property out of this individual object called country, which is, you know, of course associated with countries. So it's kind of like a for each. Really cool. Really, just one little line of code and binding all is done for you. Okay, this is how the binding, you know, like I have a lot of bindings here. Like for example, this state binding, job type binding. All those are. This was little because I am binding to array object here. If I had to bind just with the plain object, which I'm doing here with okay, the state name, if you look at the state name, okay, state name is kind of like same too, as because I have a name property, that's what I would like to bind. State binding is very similar to the country binding. Basically I have US state object defined in this code. I'm just writing for each sort of syntax and binding. But if you just have what I was trying to show you is this one here. For example, here, this is good one. The industry is here property, right? The industry property. This is an array, string of array. So if you want to bind industry, you can see how to do binding of the industry here. So duration, here is the industry.